Maybe before I start, just to get a feel of the audience, how many of you watched all the other WebRTC sessions today? Some people? And you generally, how many of you have been working with WebRTC for more than a year? All right, a good amount. So, well, I'll touch on it a little bit. So, if you don't know me, I've been working with WebRTC now for close to the beginning, 5 years. I've been working with WebRTC almost exclusively for about 4. Along the way, a couple colleagues and I, we decided to start a little blog. You know, I really wanted to start it just to do some developer experiments to help me learn with a small audience and just, you know, a place to kind of keep my notes. It's the WebRTC Hacks blog. It's a blog for WebRTC developers. It's evolved beyond just that small audience. We have a really great community and contributors to help right there. So if you are interested in WebRTC, you haven't heard of it, I definitely go check it out. We try to cover a bunch of different topics, generally technical in nature, but we have some good articles on just getting started, understanding and background of WebRTC, and also doing some reverse engineering of some of the major WebRTC services out there. And today I'm going to talk about some WebRTC hacks, and there's a lot of different definitions of the word hack. So the one I'm going to be talking about here is a piece of code providing a quick or inelegant solution to a particular problem. I don't really like the term inelegant. Maybe unexpected would be better for some of what I have here. But ultimately, I'm going to go through for those of you that have been working WebRTC a long time. We're going to walk through basically how I got into WebRTC and some of my learnings along the way from doing different experiments, right? And we'll take a look at the end at some of production deployments and some of the things that are out there in the wild and some hacks that we can learn there, right? And for those of you that are really familiar with the blog and follow everything, I hope at least some of this is entertaining for you. So my first hack, and this was back in 2013, when I was really just starting to play around with WebRTC hands-on and really just learning JavaScript. I had this problem where I had a young daughter. She'd take naps, and usually when kids wake up from a nap, they start screaming when they're little. She would wake up and run around first somewhere and then start screaming, which got my wife really freaked out. So I thought, this is back when Dropcam was relatively new and expensive and hard to get, and like, well, I'm working with this WebRTC stuff. I should be able to figure out a way to do this, right? So I found online some JavaScript, front-end JavaScript libraries that allow you to do like just basic motion detection, and I thought, well, why can't I just apply this to a WebRTC stream and build my own, WebRTC motion detecting baby monitor? And play the short video here. The way it works is pretty simple. Find my mouse. Do it this way. All right, so this one's, we talked about earlier, well, I guess that did not work. Let's do it here. I'll make a call go through. Right, now we'll start some motion detection. Right, and if all goes well, this should beep whenever I move the robot. All right, so this is pretty simple. It just took some snapshots from the video stream. All right, images, threw up to the goes to the canvas. Run a very simple algorithm that basically checks and looks and see if the image changed by a certain degree. If it changed, it sends off a beep. Right? Doesn't look all that novel or anything today in 2013. I was pretty excited about it because it was my first real WebRTC apps. It helped me get started. So some of the lessons learned. First, in this case, I did all this front end, right? I used actually EasyRTC. At the time, they actually had a backend cloud service, so I really didn't need to know how to do a whole lot. It was pretty simple, just really basic rudimentary JavaScript skills, and I could figure this out. And incorporating an HTML5 canvas was really actually I was surprised how easy to do, and it got me really intrigued about the possibilities of WebRTC and taking advantage and grabbing context out of the actual media itself, right? And the last one is you can actually do some pretty cool stuff without knowing anything what you're doing, right? So this got me down a path of doing more of these. So then I got a little bit cocky, and I thought, well, what would it take to build my own VoIP service, right? And I've probably grown antisocial over time, but yeah, I really don't like people calling me. Probably because most of the time, 60% of the time, it's not someone I want to talk to or someone trying to sell me something. So I thought, can I build my own VoIP service, then have it on my own web page, and set this in a way where the user, they need to authenticate themselves somehow and prove that they know me, and then they're allowed to give me a call. All right, so I set out to build my own WebRTC service. And this time, I really wanted to control and own everything myself. I wanted to see what it would take to build out the back end myself. So this was a little bit more work. And again, I decided to use EasyRTC just because I had some familiarity with it. They also had an open source backend piece. Right? I used Node.js and Express. I grabbed a pre-built Ubuntu image, made by Bitnami, and ran that on Amazon Web Services. It took a little bit of work to pull all this together. This was my first time really doing a full stack like this. And also took a little bit of extra work that I didn't really have to think about in the previous hack I did to put together the server logic and think of how real-time interaction was going to affect my application. But some of the things I learned in doing this is the signaling piece actually was pretty easy. So I have my background is mostly doing product marketing, product management, in telecom, doing a lot of SIP stuff, and SIP signaling is not easy to do. WebRTC signaling, especially with using JSON, is really simple, really not an issue. All right, and the cloud setup, at the end of the day, it wasn't too difficult. It was definitely hard for me as a newbie going through some of it, but there's so many documents and resources out there to do this. It wasn't. It just took some reading and some patience. The WebRTC piece, in the grand scheme of things, was actually really small. Just that EasyRTC server library at the end, right? And a couple negative things I learned is, one, at the time, HTTPS SSL security certificates weren't required for using WebRTC. All right, this changed soon after, so my site stopped working, right? Because I didn't have an SSL security certificate. I didn't know how to do all that at the time. So I figured that out. I also noticed that when I went to work and other environments that it didn't work, right? And one reason for that was because I skipped the turn server setup. And if you listen to some of the other sessions today, they'll definitely encourage you, don't forget about the turn server. And at the end of the day, I was so focused on doing all the back-end stuff, I really got detached from the user interaction, the front-end pieces. Not only did some things stop working as WebRTC evolved and matured, but I didn't really find all that useful because I didn't have a lot of the notifications and other mechanisms that I really need to make this valuable. So I ended up abandoning this project, but I did learn a bunch along the way, which got me inspired to do even more. So this next one is probably my favorite one of all time. Was that to help fix a problem with my dog. So I had this bulldog. He grew up on the couch, basically got really comfortable with the couch. He was all right. We had an old couch. We didn't care that much about it, so we let him sleep there. But then one day, we got a new couch, right? And we didn't want the dog on the new couch to ruin the new couch. We wanted to keep the new couch new. And Levy, the bulldog, he did not agree with that approach. So when we were home, certainly could shut him off, but what he would do is every time we would leave, he would jump up on the couch, and then we'd come home and we'd find him there. And it was really frustrating. My wife, we spent all this money on this new, nice fancy leather couch. I didn't want it ruined, so I really tried hard to think, what can we do to fix this situation? And around the same time, I had been playing around with a Tessel, JavaScript microcontroller, and I found I could hook it up to one of my kids. There's this little Alenco snap circuits rover for your kids. I figured you could hook up this. I played around with adding the JavaScript microcontroller to the kid's toy, I thought maybe there's a way I can use these things to just shoo them off the couch. So I did a quick proof of concept. I set up a video call. I had basically a home theater PC system set up with a webcam on top of it, and I would sit in my office and just watch the dog remotely, and tap in and have the rover go and nudge him, right? And that seemed to work to get him off. So that got me thinking, that was nice when I'm sitting there. I basically have to sit there and watch it the whole time, which is not too realistic. So I thought, could I come up with a system to basically automate this whole thing and essentially just give me an alert when the dog's on the couch, give me an opportunity to yell at him at least, and it'd be nice to encourage him to get off. And if he doesn't, then give him a little nudge with the robot to push him off. So this idea sounded really cool. It definitely was a little bit of a Rube Goldberg type machine, but I sat out trying to figure out how to do this, right? And this is the part where it started to get really complex because I had a lot of different components involved here. In this case, I decided to try a different signaling server out there. I actually used simple WebRTC. That they had a hosted instance at the time that I actually used, so I didn't have to set that up myself. But I set up my own Node.js server as before. I had the Tesla microcontroller IoT device there. I also had a browser-based monitor app that I had running on my home theater PC, and I really wanted to record the whole thing too, because it's no fun if you can't see it at the end of the day. So I hooked up some recording code to that, and I also needed some viewer app basically that says, once you get alerted, so you can go and see what's going on there. And one of the challenges I had is figuring out what's the right way, what's the best way to do the alerting, and I struggled. I really didn't want to go and learn how to write an Android app, or my wife has an iPhone to figure out how to do this. So what I ended up doing, which I found was a suitable solution, was using Twilio's MMS API, which just came out at the time. And so I combined all these together. And one day I left with the family to go off somewhere. Right, and I set everything up, turn it all on, and I get no further than 2 blocks down the street, and I get an alert on the phone. So I pull over, I look and I see this, and he's jumped up on the couch already. All right, so this is my chance to test this, and
Levy, get off the couch. Get off the couch.
That obviously worked. It's a little confused.
Get off the couch.
and finally success. So and I was so I was actually worried. So I was using Firefox to the recording, and I was really worried the recording wouldn't work all well because that was the media recorder API was new, but actually, as you can see, I captured everything. So this was a lot of work, but also a lot of fun. I definitely learned way more than the previous ones in putting this together. Unfortunately, I actually didn't get it worked too well. I didn't get a chance to use it as much as I'd like. We would end up leaving the rover on the couch, and you just figured out that, all right, it's not a good idea to go up on the couch when the rover was there. But some of the lessons learned here is one of the great things in investing in WebRTC and learning about this is that you get so many of these new features for free over time. And the media recorder API, which is now available in Chrome, too, was one of those features that was really great that allowed me to show you this in the first place. Right? Another interesting thing here too is, as much as I really wanted to do a real-time alert to a mobile app, I found just using the MMS was much easier. I did experiment with trying to do video and actually sending a chunk of video via MMS, but I had some problems since AT&T had some limits of the size of the video that you can send. And a lot of times the recording just exceeded that size, and I didn't have a good way of controlling it. So I just stayed with sending an image. All right. Another thing I learned through this is I really wanted to set this up and have it work on my wife's iPhone. That it just wasn't going to happen. For this, especially at the time, this is in 2014, the hurdles to get to do it, especially if you're not an Apple developer, to try to build an app on iOS was just too high. So I basically just had to make this an Android only, using Chrome or actually Firefox on my Android phone, right? But this also got me thinking a lot more about the Internet of Things and all the opportunities this presents to basically create and capture these short-term real-time communication sessions that you can have based on some action or activity. Right, so after this, I definitely got a little more confident in my skills, and I thought, well, if I'm going to go and spend time to play around with this, maybe I should try to do a hackathon and get paid for it, or potentially at least get a chance to win. Right, and I really wanted to do something with computer vision, and taking some of the things I had before, I thought I could just build up some sort of a generic alerting app out there. One of my first thoughts was I had this dehumidifier in my basement that just kept randomly turning off. I knew it would flash a warning sign before it turned off, but since no one was there to look at it, you could never see the warning sign, and then the power would die, so we wouldn't get it. So I thought maybe if I had some sort of system that would alert me when it started to die and take a snapshot and send it, I'd be able to figure that out. But after I got through the hackathon, and I managed to get some of the one of the things of hackathons, you have to use some of the vendor APIs. I worked through that, and I had a few hours left to go. And this is right around the same time that, I don't know if you remember, the Microsoft's How Old Net, when they first started to introduce some of their Project Oxford computer vision APIs. I decided to like maybe give this a try and see if I can use some of these APIs out there. And it's actually very comprehensive. You can't see in the small font, but it make it really easy just to make a REST API call, basically grab an image snapshot from your video stream, send it up, and it sends you back a bunch of information about what's inside that image, right? So then I had to think, how am I going to apply this? How can I use this? And again, another real problem around the house is, my daughter was a little bit older, and she was going through a phase where she'd go in the refrigerator, grab something, and just leave the refrigerator door open. And we go back and ask who left the refrigerator open, and it was she never volunteered herself to do this. So I thought maybe we can use this computer vision API to see and do some identification to see who is going in the fridge. All right. And so it doesn't look like much, but you can't see all the small code there. But I basically set it up to trigger when it identified a person that was less than, she was 4 years old, so 4 years old and less, to send me an alert, right? Which it did. And if my son went in there, or if I went in there, it wouldn't go off, because actually the APIs were pretty good. It wouldn't. They were very good at recognizing age, right? So I set that up. And I submitted this. It seemed pretty simple, I mean, at the end of the day, and I ended up winning. So, which for me, I'm not a professional developer. I never will be a professional developer. I like to work with developers. I like to understand this stuff, but I don't want to get paid to code. Although winning a hackathon was great. So this did teach me that a lot of this technology is not inaccessible. And particularly since I came from a lot more the traditional VoIP telephony background, previously, the only people that could do any of this stuff were people who had experience building VoIP stacks and been doing this for 10 or 15 years, right? It really was completely inaccessible. And now it really just in a course of a couple years, just really spending, just basically through the hacks I show you here, I get to learn how to do some of this stuff. And imagine, how much someone that actually is a professional developer could do if they gave it a full-time effort, right? So some of the interesting things here is that, again, I was really surprised, like getting context and content from those real-time streams really wasn't so hard, right? Another thing in this I learned is I definitely got hung up during a hackathon trying to do the signaling and making the signaling a lot harder than it needed to be. In most cases, just a simple like pick up, hang up, this sort of thing is all you need. I definitely recommend keeping that as simple as possible. All right, and the last part of this is, in this case, I had the remote camera I just used my cell phone and stuck it in the fridge, right? I really like, one project I really like to do is put together some sort of Wi-Fi based WebRTC camera that you can stick anywhere, all right? So this is maybe a future hack idea. And overall, this got me thinking a lot more about some of the opportunities, again, with you know, things and real-time communications and the different types of modalities and communications that can emerge. So like creating calls when, you know, some sort of alert trigger goes off and that, you know, causes you to call someone else, right, to talk about what happened. Or in the case of somebody here was basically the machine is making a call once an alert goes off, like my dog trainer. Or even like the computer vision case where actually the machine is actually just analyzing that real-time stream and doing something. And something I don't think we're quite there yet, but with the bot craze, hopefully we do get there not too long, is really having AI, you know, talk to other AIs, you know, artificial intelligent, you know, bot type entities with real-time communications with voice and video. And you can see with some of this, there's potential for it to go there. So my next hack is you know, going back to some of the toys. I had the Rover sitting dormant for a while. I fried my Tesla microcontroller, so I had no way of controlling it. But so I just recently started playing around with the Raspberry Pi, and it's really exciting, all the things you can do with the Raspberry Pi. It's a great, widely supported platform. There's great libraries. You can go out there and in just a couple hours, I got a real-time stream. Going on this thing. Using a library called UVL4, right, and hook this up into, and let my son play around with it, trying to get him to learn how to, program or understand, development concepts and make a little kind of command line interface. So at least has to type in the commands, and so far this has worked well. So this might be my my next hack that I publish and work on. All right, so enough about me, my pithy little things. There are actually some interesting hacks and things that you can look that are out there in the wild, right? And I'm really excited about some other trends out there, such as what's going on with the canvas and web audio. So I showed some ways to take the canvas and basically read that information. But in both these cases, there's new APIs now that are supported across both Chrome and Firefox that let you not only take the image and do something with it, but manipulate it and send it back and send it to some other remote entity, right? And using this is a post we just had last week by Alexei Arlov, is you can actually do things like create your own browser-based conferencing server, right? Here, where you actually mix audio in the browser, right, or inside your application. And these are exciting things that weren't really practical to do before, that now can be done in just a few lines of code. Right? There's also some hacks out there that we don't like, right, or that aren't great. And one of the things in WebRTC is, as part of the setting up that peer-to-peer communication channel, it goes through and identifies all your available IP addresses, right? And this has been used by some trackers to do fingerprinting. All right, and a report that just came out last week identified 700 of, more than 700 of the top 1 million sites that were using this capability. At the end of the day, this is pretty, compared to all the other fingerprinting techniques out there, it's pretty minor. And Chrome's actually done some stuff to limit it further. And you can even do things like hack the hack, like Philip Hanka, who spoke here last year. He helped to write a notifier that basically let you tells you when someone is snooping or trying to grab your IP address without your permission, so you know that WebRTC is being used. All right, and more recently, I'm seeing a lot more, I'd say, production hacks, where you see some applications like Slack moving away from doing peer-to-peer, right, and doing server-side media processing for various different reasons, speeding up call setup times, or for helping to do server-side media processing aspects. So at the end, just to conclude the retrospective, a lot of things I showed here are definitely hacks, right? They're not things that go in production, but You're really excited about the maturity in the industry over the last couple years, and the ability to take some of these concepts and move from just a silly little hack into actually taking some of these ideas and running them in production. So, I'm out of time. Thanks.